Okay, so I know it's still like 9 weeks away, but you want a surefire way to clear the crowd at your Thanksgiving gathering? Just bring up student loan debt and the Biden administration's plan to erase it. Just put that little generational grenade in your back pocket, pull the pin, and just watch the futile fireworks fly. President Biden announced his student loan forgiveness plan nearly a month ago, and about 3 weeks later, Idaho's governor was one of nearly 24 other state leaders to sign and send a letter to the president explaining why it's a bad idea. One of the reasons that letter highlighted is the forgiveness plan would push the financial burden to taxpayers to the tune of more than $2,000 each. That seems like a big number, but is it a real number for everyone, like every Idahoan? Here's Joe Paris.
Idaho Governor Brad Little signed on with more than 20 governors to send this letter to President Joe Biden. It's in regards to the Biden administration's student loan debt forgiveness plan. In short, the Biden administration wants to forgive up to $10,000 in federal student loan debt for those with incomes below $125,000 a year or households that earn less than $250,000 combined. Governor Little and other governors argue in their letter to Biden that the plan will, quote, cost the American taxpayer more than $2,000 each or $600 billion total, a price that people of our states cannot afford, the statement says. As a part of the Biden plan, when student debt is forgiven, it doesn't just go away. The president doesn't have the power to make that go away. Forgiveness is actually passed on to other Americans.
But the reality is now taxpayers collectively, and believe it or not, Joe, that's you and I, collectively, we are the government.
Dave Petzo is a financial expert based in Boise. He explains that, yes, taxpayers would be on the hook to pay for forgiven student loans. This letter signed by Little and other governors mentions the cost to Americans as about $2,000 each. So where does that calculation come from? Well, in short, it's basically based on how much of student debt forgiveness plan is expected to cost divided by American taxpayers. So to be clear, Americans are not paying an extra $2,000 each out of pocket for the plan, but instead, $2,000 about per taxpayer is added to the national debt, a number that continues to climb.
It's a lot. And that really means future generations, your kids, grandkids, etc., are going to have less of something, higher taxes, in order to pay things off. It's not a printing press. You can just keep running without any detriment to the future.
So is that cost worth it to Americans? Well, you'd have to ask each individual person for their take, but there are segments of the population that we've heard speak out in major support of the idea.
Any opportunity that we have to be able to put money back into our educators' pockets for the things that they do to be professional certified educators is an opportunity.
Mike Journey is spokesman for the Idaho Education Association. They represent public school educators, administrators here in Idaho. And Journey says that IEA applauds ideas like this because the idea could greatly benefit educators in the Gem State.
Our members are modestly paid professionals. They rely heavily on their ability to get certified, their ability to continue their education after they become teachers. Many of them go on to get master's degree and doctorates, and so it's important for them to be able to have an opportunity for debt relief.
Journey points to successful legislation from earlier this year in Idaho as an example of how Idaho educators can benefit from debt forgiveness and encourage educators to stay in the profession.
Just this past year, there was a rural educator initiative that was passed, an incentive that was passed that we wholeheartedly endorsed because it provided those kind of opportunities for educators to be reimbursed for their expenses to get certified, to go on to graduate school and do other things.
Still, Petzo points out that the Biden plan does not address the core issue here, the rising cost of higher education.
Almost nothing on the planet has become more expensive over the last 30 years than higher education. Percentage-wise, it's through the roof. And this only rewards them. We're rewarding these institutions not for changing, but in fact to stay the same and really stay bad and expensive. And that, to me, is one of the other, if you will, social problems with this whole bill.
So I know there's a lot of questions right now about the Biden debt forgiveness program. You may be asking yourself at home, oh, am I still going to get this? When is this going to go through? Well, a lot of it is actually still being worked through, and there's also some possible legal challenges to the entire thing. So, Brian, as more information comes out really from the federal level, we'll get an idea of exactly how this could work. Again, there could be legal challenges that could prevent this from happening. Long story short, though, it is an interesting conversation. And, you and I were talking during the story. You can put this context of how much this is going to cost per taxpayer on almost anything.
Well, that's isn't it kind of how America works? I mean, we just kind of just kick this can down the road because aren't we still paying for the war on terror? Aren't we still paying for the big bailout of too big to fail? I mean, all that stuff happens where it all adds to this national debt that just keeps running and running.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of consistency, if, for example, the student debt thing upsets you because you're adding to the national debt, that's a fine opinion to have. However, if you're going to stay consistent, you need to make sure that you're looking at other programs and you're saying, oh, maybe this is apples to oranges. No, that's apples to apples when you talk about government programs and really adding to the national debt. So there you go.
All right. Thank you very much, Joe.